الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عليكم بسنتي وسنة الخلفاء الراشدين المهديين تمسكوا عليها بالنواجز أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us a life to arrive at the 10th night. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all. This first Ashra has gone so quickly. And the first Ashra is the 10 days of mercy, second 10 days are forgiveness, and the last one is freedom from Jahannam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us their complete reward. So firstly, something in regards to Ramadan. In one hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentions that in Ramadan, we should be very particular about asking for Jannah and seeking refuge from Jahannam. So that's one of the constant du'as that we should be making every day, besides all the rest of the du'as that we're making. So, for example, making نَسْأَلُكَ الْجَنَّةَ وَمَا قَرَّبَ إِلَيْهَا مِنْ قَوْلٍ وَعَمَلٍ. We ask you for paradise and any statement and action that brings us close to it. And saying, نَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ جَهَنَّمَ مَا قَرَّبَ إِلَيْهَا مِنْ قَوْلٍ وَعَمَلٍ. And we seek refuge from Jahannam, the things that, action and statements that draw us closer to Jahannam. So begging for Jannah and abstaining from, and that should be one of the primary du'as of Ramadan. Everyone's got it? Inshallah, we're going to make it. Inshallah. Besides all the rest of the du'as that we have to make. And now coming to the book. In the book, we're on this 10th night, so we're on the 10th principle. This brings us to the end of outward actions. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah mentioned 10 outward actions, and this is the last outward action. And he says, adhering to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And he says, adhering to the Prophet ﷺ, the first line of his, he goes, is in worship and in habits. How Prophet ﷺ worshipped. So as Muslims, we have to worship according to the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. That's where all the reward lies. You don't pray salah the way you wish to pray salah. You pray according to the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. Any ibadah, umrah, hajj, zakat, any ibadah, you do it according to sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even this tarawih is according to sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I started my lecture with the hadith, alaykum bi sunnati. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, obligatory upon you is my sunnah and the sunnah of the khulafai rashidin, the rightly guided khalifas. Tamassaku and latch onto it with your molars. It's not like latch onto it with your teeth. It's an Arabic expression that you hold tightly to my sunnah and the sunnah of khulafai rashidin. And because he said that in one sentence, hang on to my sunnah and the sunnah of my four khulafa. So the scholars say that the sunnah, the way of Umar radiallahu ta'ala, the way of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala is the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So even if it's something the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't do, but Umar radiallahu ta'ala did do, and Uthman radiallahu ta'ala did do, it is his sunnah. Many Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to do it, but he didn't do it before for whatever wisdom that he had, that he didn't do it before. So this is very, very important, sticking to the sunnah. And going back to what we said yesterday, remember we said 50%, more than 50% of what we see on social media, and if we just stick to social media, we don't learn from individual human beings, proper ulama, then that's deviance. That's nothing but deviance. You'll never learn. You won't become educated. In fact, you'll go to the negatives. All the good things that you have learned will go away. That's the kind of negative effect. It has such a negative impact on you. That's why the whole world has social media, right? You can go to the town, in the most rural town, don't they have like a smartphone? No? Nowadays, like when you go even into any countries, you find everybody has a smartphone. They probably don't have food to eat, but they have a very nice. They probably don't have food, but they have nice phones just like us. You know how we are, big phones. You go to some of these countries, they have nice phones, and with that phone, do you think they have data? Yes. And do you think they have social media? Okay. So does that mean the whole world is just going to become so enlightened because we have like all this information being thrown at us? It's not going to happen like that. It always happens the way it always happened, which is through human beings. You have to have a primary teacher. Just like you have a primary doctor, you have to have a primary religious teacher. You have a mechanic that you rely on, who you check prices with, in case the next mechanic doesn't scam you. Understand? So you have to have living teachers that we have to study with. Because the reason I bring this up is because that's why the Muslim community stops following the Sunnah. If Imam Ghazali is mentioning the 10th principle is following the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but we find the Muslim community falls short on following the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the reason is because they give the ear to everything. And that's become like a global norm. It's a global norm. So we have to change that. Or we're never going to have strength. Our iman is never going to increase. We're not getting anywhere. In fact, we're going into the negatives. Remember, I told you that. And remember, whenever you seek information, it doesn't always put you in the positives. Ilm is nur. What is ilm? It's a nur. It changes you. Yeah? So if you study with proper teachers, you got nur. Then if you give your ear to everything, then that brings you into negatives again. It's like you got nur, but then you got negatives. And that happens to people. People study with proper teachers, and then they just study from here and there, and then they go into the negatives. Whatever they've learned, actually, you go low. They actually stop. They were used to following the sunnah, and now they don't follow the sunnah. So did you go from positive to more positive, or you went to negative? Negative. So you don't want to have these swings. Not in deen. Not in deen. We want to adhere to the deen. We're Muslims, right? Muslim means surrender, submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sunnah, Imam Ghazali rahimahullah mentioned the 10th point, sunnah. And adat. Sunnah in worships, absolutely. And even in adat, how did the Prophet ﷺ dress? That's very important. We should dress ourselves according to sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Headgear, turban, you get more reward. There's a reason why we're doing it. There's a blessing, there's a nur that you get from it. Even when the children come to Quran class, we teach them the sunnah of things. We teach them the sunnah of eating, sunnah of dress. They're actually, so why do we require them to do that? That's actually one of the secrets to a successful Islamic school, is that you make everyone follow the sunnah, because they get the nur through that. It changes their behavior. Make sense? Then why is it that when we grow older, we just wash all that off? We're never supposed to wash that off. Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is something we adhere to. We adhere to and we learn. And when you seek knowledge from proper alims, and that it'll help you to start following the sunnah. When you give your ear to everything, you start losing the sunnah. Does that make sense? Now, what does the Quran say about sunnah? It says, "In kuntum tuhibbun Allah." Tell them, O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tell the world that if you love Allah, fattabi'uni, then follow me. Ittiba' in Arabic language is that you just follow the Prophet in everything. So that means that the way he worshipped, you worship like him. The way he dressed, you dress like him. The way he ate, you eat like him. The way he lived his life, you live his life like that. So Muslims adhere to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our success only lies in that. Allah's pleasure lies in that. Yes? So what takes us away from the sunnah? That's something that all of us need to brainstorm. Understand? Shaitan takes us away from the sunnah. Understand? And how has he set up the globe for you to go away from the sunnah? And how different tactics. So Allahumma hafazna. Our success only lies in the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have to get back on track. We're going to get back on track, inshallah. Allah give us tawfiq. Allah.